Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another entertaining episode of Keister, the Real Talk Show. And I am your beautiful host, Keister. In today's episode, I will be talking to someone who stands strongly to advocate for the rights of women, who serves as the Executive Director of Media Matters for Women Sierra Leone and the Project Coordinator for the Women's Initiative for Safer Health. She is the proud winner of the 2020 Women Forward Mentor of Distinction Bronze Award by the U.S. Women's Business Council for Peace and was also recently nominated amongst 50 women across the world as a Fellow of Vital Voices. Who is she? You will find out just after the break. Welcome back to Keister, the Real Talk Show. Of course, today I'm going to be talking about women, the rights of women. And there is no way I can come here, sit here, and talk about women's rights and not introduce my guest, who is Florence Sesay. Hello, Florence. How are you?
Hi, Ellen, and thank you for having me. And I'm really proud of what you're doing. Thank you
Thank you,
so
thank you,
much.
thank you.
Yeah.
Florence and I, we go way back. We went to the best school, St. Joseph Secondary
Yes,
School,
you
Convent.
can say that loud.
How have you been, though? How's everything with you?
Well, I'm fine, coping, enjoying, um, the peaceful atmosphere in Sierra Leone.
Okay.
And all about me, I've been working on women issues.
Yes, I noticed. I see you. You're doing wonderful things, and I'm really super excited because we're all for the women. No matter, I know where I do not too, but it's all about the women. And of course, you're the executive director for Women Matters, Women Media Matters Sierra Leone, something like that,
Yeah.
right? How is it going though? How is it?
So, Media Matters for Women is actually a non-governmental organization.
Okay.
We bridge the information gap where women in last mile communities have zero access to radio, television, social media. So we
Wow.
produce podcasts. And
Okay.
these podcasts are translated into, their local languages. And we work across Freetown, Western Rural, Bombali, McKinney and its surroundings, and Kenema. And we work with 75 field staffs,
Okay.
which
Wow.
include focal persons, youth advocates, and town criers.
Okay.
These are our foot soldiers that work very closely with key community stakeholders in distributing information on sexual and gender-based violence,
Okay.
sexual and reproductive health issues, women's empowerment, and they have a very close contact with the community. And we produce this podcast, we discuss on issues,
Okay.
and then we have um, a network where we easily capture the feedbacks from these women.
Okay.
And we have amazing feedbacks.
Wow.
Media Matters for Women, you know, our M&E captures 60,000 listeners per month across.
60,000.
Yes.
Wow, that's a lot of numbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you say about this podcast and then it's translated, where's the hub for the podcast? Because you're saying 60,000
Yeah.
across.
What we do, we work with trained journalists
Okay.
who produce this podcast, and we are part of different community coalitions
Okay.
in terms of service providers, in terms of human rights groups, so many people who are actors within the health and the response on sexual and gender-based violence.
Okay.
So it's easy for us to produce content with the real figures and
Figures and
happenings
everything.
that are happening within these areas.
So of course these figures are not doctored at all.
Not
These are
at
the
all.
real figures.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing with a lot of organizations and things like
Yeah.
that. They make it even more. It's even worse than what it really is. You know what I mean? But of course, when I hear the actual figures, then we know this is a problem. Women are suffering, and then we're going through a
In fact,
lot.
we use a software, which
Okay.
is the Open Data Kit.
Okay.
And our youth advocates, our field staffs are trained.
Okay.
And we have the GPS system where we can locate the community, the real locality where that podcast was distributed,
Okay.
and how many listeners were captured.
All right, great. So what are some of the barriers, you face in the field?
Um, a lot, definitely. When you talk about barriers, a lot. We have very worrisome figures on,
Okay.
rape,
Wow.
sexual harassment, torture. But in terms of coordination, in terms of access to these services, these are really huge barriers. So for me, I think one of our best approaches that we've used is building coalition, working in partnership with other service providers. We work, like for example in McKinney, we have a very strong consortium with
Okay.
Rainbow
Oh,
Initiative,
nice.
Advocate, and other key family support units. These are all key actors because when there is rape or abuse, the first port of call is the family support unit.
Okay.
So we serve like whistleblowers. So
Oh.
these communities, when they listen to our podcast, and our podcast, the main thing about our podcast is to influence behavioral change and also improve access to services.
Okay.
So when they access our podcast, they know and understand that, this, what is being done to my child is unacceptable, and this is where I should access,
These services.
Yeah.
So that's the most important thing because I'm happy for the fact that you mentioned the collaboration.
Yes.
Because there's Rainbow and they do different things.
Definitely.
And with the women, of course, it's not just about like sexual harassment or rape. It's everything.
Abuse, yeah,
Abuse
everything.
because that's what's really happening. The women are suffering basically,
Definitely.
and you guys are there. Do you have offices in all these places or just one and then you just do all this collaboration like you just mentioned?
Like I said, we have different, we operate in different regions. We just started with a World Bank project through the Skills Development Project
Okay.
at Karine, and that is an empowerment project. We want to see how best we expand to other communities. And the need for this information to change behaviors, especially on health and gender-based violence, is really key and needed. So we are operating for now in 4 different regions: Western Rural, Bombali, and Kenema in the Eastern region, and Karine, Kamalenka to be specific.
Oh, well done.
Thank
You guys are
you.
doing big things. So for gender inequality, do you think it's been minimized or it's on the increase?
Well, for me, I think we are doing, there are progress. We've taken some great steps, and we must really, thank, partners who've been working, the government, in terms of certain laws that have been passed. But in terms of reaching to where we are, looking at the ratio in terms of women, 52%, and we are still having less than 20% representation in parliament. I think we're still not yet there.
Yeah, we're not. Because you mentioned the law, and I was going to say that, we're supposed to be getting up there, but people are still struggling. We're still not there, even the offices. The mere fact that you are a woman, they just feel like, oh, you're not supposed to be on top of the man. There's so many things, I mean, so I get it.
We live in a very stereotyping, community, or, our people think that there are certain places where they'll tell you, woman, cock not a co. We still have different cultures and barriers. There are certain places where women, they are still yet to accept women becoming paramount chiefs. They are still yet to accept women, coming out to vie for certain positions.
Wow.
And there are so many barriers, to shut women down. So it depends on the region, the community, but the barriers are really there. And it takes a lot of commitment, a lot of engagement. That is why one of our key, strategy is working with local stakeholders, the traditional leaders, the religious leaders, the women group, the young people. The more you engage them, you discuss this issue, you open the
they
platform.
get to open their minds.
Definitely, they understand that, okay, we live in an equal world, and we give examples of other areas. There are other communities where we have women paramount chiefs.
Of course.
And when a woman take a lead,
a
leadership role, then I tell you, Ellen, changes definitely happens. She'll prioritize education. She'll prioritize health. She'll prioritize, she'll not actually, she understands what women are going through.
All right, hold it right there. She understands what other people are going through. I'll be right back after this.
Who knows what might happen tomorrow, next week, or even next year? But we do know that with Stacco Insurance, whatever the future brings, we'll be there when you need us most, with outstanding customer service and prompt payment of your claim. Fire, motor, general accident, marine, life and medical. For now and for tomorrow. Stacco Insurance, a passion for high standards.
Today, of course, I am talking to Florence Sesay, the Executive Director for Media Matters for Women Sierra Leone. Welcome back to Keister, the Real Talk Show. It's all about women. We know what's going on in the world, what's going on in the country. When it comes to women, of course, we're being sidelined for so many things. Like she was saying earlier, positions we don't get because we're women. And she mentioned something, welcome back, Florence, come to think of it, where you say, women coconut grow or something. Imagine that. We're really fighting for the women. I mean, I am with the men as well, don't get me wrong, because now in Sierra Leone, all my they talk about, oh, it's all about the women, it's all about the women. No, we just fight for what we want, because we feel like we're able to make decisions. Like you were saying earlier as well, when you put women in certain positions, we're good people, we make good decisions. We're able to train, we're like the mothers, the sisters. It's different. So we're just asking for a chance. However, the government had a rule, like you said, it was supposed to be 52%, but still we're like, what? No way. Of course you represent the women, you're an advocate and you collaborate with other stakeholders and other organizations. However, I'm just curious to know, what really started your journey? Why did you decide, why? For me, I fact that you're a woman, of course, because you get married with the first woman. So I don't think that because you're not a woman, no. But deep down, like, what really made you start that journey, as in, let me fight for women?
Okay, so I started my career as a broadcast journalist like 20 years back. So I joined CTN then, which was the Cotton Tree News. And walking into the newsroom, it was a male-dominated field. So it's like the editor, those who are in decision were all male. So, and the then chief editor came from the BBC, George, and he said, what exactly do you want? What specific role? And he said, I wanted to handle women's issues. So I was the producer because I knew positioning myself at the newsroom then was going to give me a space to tell the stories of other women across Sierra Leone. So I pierced through that very cleverly. And I was, the producer and presenter of Women Talk. And so I used that platform to tell the stories of so many other women. I touched on gray areas, issues, we triggered discussion on FGM, we triggered discussion on, maternal mortality. We ask very sensitive question, and we brought those issues to the wider world.
Okay.
So for me, my journey started there by positioning myself and using that position to provide voice for other women across the country.
So, I mean, what are some of these issues? Like you said, you were in that position to do that. A lot of people are not in that position, so it's a good thing because now you follow through and now you're doing even bigger things. But some of the issues that we're going through, you and I know, but of course, for somebody who's watching, doesn't know, doesn't understand, because sometimes they make it seem like we are the problem.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, now they put themselves in that position. Now they want to do this and they want to do this. But a lot of times it's not. We're just being taken advantage of. So as a broadcaster, of course, as a journalist doing things then and now, what's the major issue? We have different ones, of course. You know, the FGM, of course, is there, the rape, you know. But what would you say is really on the rise of women issues?
You know, it's a shame so many things are happening recently when we talk about sexual harassment, and these are really worrisome because as a nation we should be taking these issues really seriously. And why do I say it is a shame and worrisome? Because even the women, you know, they are not even concerned that much in terms of the response to these allegations.
What do you mean
These
they're
are
not concerned?
concerned in a sense that, you know, you talk to some women, oh, it was a relationship.
Oh, okay.
You know, they had a relationship. For me, I think we have to bring to the attention of our women that we should be in the position to identify what is an abuse,
Okay.
what is, you know, the space. We should be concerned about the space for women in at workplace, how women should be treated.
Okay.
And we have to look at the policies now.
Okay.
As a nation, we have a fantastic bill, which is the Sexual Offences Act.
Okay.
We know, you know, with reports of so many rape victims, the president did a great job to pass, you know, an emergency on sexual, you know, offense. And we had the Sexual Offences Bill. But how do we ensure that these bills are actually being domesticated?
Right.
How do we ensure that these laws are, you know, injected into workplaces, both private and public sector, in terms of coining policies, strong policies, when it comes to sexual health within their workplaces?
You know, well, for me, let me put it this way. These women, all of us, do they really understand their rights, though?
Exactly.
Because that's the major thing. Like, I don't think they do, you know, because if they do, then a lot of things would have, you know, well, I mean, we can't stop everything, but a lot of things will be minimized. So that's my question. You're dealing with women, you're talking to women. Do they really understand, you know, of course, the workplace, just anywhere else, like abuse, you know, all these things, do they understand it?
Ellen, I will not hesitate to use the word normalized when it comes to sexual harassment and abuse. And even women are not in the capacity to understand or, you know, stand up and say, stop it. You are not sending me decent messages. They think, oh, this is very normal. And, you know, or secondly, they are afraid of speaking up because of how the public judges when women speak up.
Or maybe losing their jobs?
Or maybe losing their jobs.
Okay.
So I think it is time for all of us, you know, you have a great platform, and I'm really grateful for you to, get me to speak here. And ensure that we bring these issues. We are not witch hunting anybody.
Of course not.
We just want institutions to be safe, institutions to adhere to strong policies against sexual harassment, and ensure they create reporting lines where women, where, men, because we know, sexual harassment cuts across.
Yeah.
You have a way to report some of these issues, and also create independent committees to investigate these matters. So I think we should act now, and making sure that we take a step forward.
But what about the ones that have maybe complained before, but nothing has happened? Because that's another thing. I do talk to people here and there. They'll tell you, oh, they know this person is like that. We've complained, but nobody's taking stance.
Ellen, I have been following issues on sexual harassment and rape abuse. I can tell you for sure, these people are very powerful. They're using power, influence, affluence, wealth. So instead of the public judging the alleged perpetrators, they're making sure that they use all of their connection and shame the alleged victim.
Wow.
And this is something really very serious in terms of setting precedents that is stopping other women to speak out.
Okay.
So I think, it's sad that all of this is happening.
Yeah, it is really sad. And to be honest, I know everybody has their stories. Like you said earlier, we're not here pointing fingers. I'm not talking about anything in particular. It's about what's happening all over Sierra Leone, even the world.
No,
we know what's going on, But the other thing is, you hear stories about women just really trying to get men into trouble as well. If they're not able to get their way, they said, okay, it could have been something that, consensual, or, something that might have been a joke, and they just take it into perception. Is this also happening where women are telling lies on men?
For me, that is why I keep emphasizing on policies.
Okay.
If we have policies, strong policies and reporting lines, if a woman wants to, bring somebody down, it will be easy for the institution to pick it up.
Right, okay.
But if there are no policies, they're all wild, people just take advantage over the situation.
Right.
So that is why I keep emphasizing for us to ensure that we push for strong policies, especially within, the work environment. And why is this really scary? We are talking about a country with high illiteracy level. These are just few women who are educated.
Right.
And if this is happening, there's a lot of secrecy happening. So many women do not want to talk because of the stereotype, how people will judge them. Just imagine that woman who is not educated, that woman who doesn't even have the transport to go to the family support unit, that woman who thinks that, I left my case, God. Yeah. It is so scary. Okay. It is really, really scary. I think it is a wake-up call for all of us to understand that we really have to protect women, especially in workplaces.
All right. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back after this.
So let's watch the Real Talk with Eileen TV show by our very own daughter of Sierra Leone, Eileen Keister.
Welcome back to Eileen Keister, the Real Talk Show. Today, we're discussing women and their rights. I have with me Florence Sesay, the Executive Director for Media Matters for Women Sierra Leone. Welcome back, Florence.
Thank you, Ellen.
If you just walked in, of course, we're talking about what's going on in the world. Like we said earlier, we're not really here to pinpoint of certain things. We know what's going on. So of course, I'm like, you know what? There's no way all of this is happening, and I'll talk to somebody who advocates for women, who knows the issues. Even though I am a woman, however, I don't know a lot of things that are happening. And she was saying earlier, some institutions, of course, policies. There's an act. Are we going with it? Are these being put in practice? Things like that, we don't even know what's going on. Of course, sexual harassment is really on the rise. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about institutions like, workplace. What about the schools? Because that's another thing. There'll be somebody who's a graduate, can't even write good English, can't even speak well. I'm not saying everybody's supposed to be smart. And then we sit there and say, we don't do something for let pass in class. Things like that. Teachers tend to take advantage of the girls. The girls take, what about the schools, not even just colleges, even secondary schools? Mm-hmm. Are you guys trying to address those issues, or you're just focusing on the private and the public sector?
For me, Ellen, that question is really timely. Mm-hmm. As I said, I am worried these things are being normalized in our society. We're hearing, sexual grades across, wow, from secondary schools to university level. And when I was talking about policy, you see the importance of streamlining these policies, mm-hmm, to that level. Because our girls are being exposed to so much abuse. Wow. And they think that is how it should be. Like you said, some of them end up, pushing themselves through all of that abuse, and when they graduate, they cannot even express themselves, mm-hmm, which is so sad. And so you see how it enters into the workplace? Yeah. They, yeah, think it's something normal.
But who's to be blamed for these things, though? I mean, the women, the girls, the parents, society. Who is to be blamed?
For me, I have a policy on blame game. Mm-hmm. If we want to blame, then we'll just keep pointing fingers. Let's see how, we come up with actions. Okay. Now we know we've already pointed it out that this is an emergency. This is a problem that is happening. What should we do? That should be the next step. Okay. For me, I think we really have to engage, okay, every stakeholder, the educational sector, everywhere. We have to ensure we implement strong policies on sexual harassment. We saw the BBC did an interview, an undercover story some years back, mm-hmm, on sex for grades. I think that was in Ghana or some West African country. Right. So and that was so
it's not a
embarrassing.
Problem.
Exactly, it's across.
It's across.
So, as a country, you sit until someone comes and do an undercover story on that. It should send a very deep signal. So I think we should not wait until this happens to that level. Okay. Let's engage together. I am just a single person. I'm lending my voice. But I think the attention of key stakeholders should be drawn to these issues. Because if we leave it, just at workplace, then we're not still solving the problem.
So what are you guys trying to do to address some of these issues? Like you said, you're just one person, I am just one person. But as an organization, or have you guys engaged the government? Like you said, there's a Sexual Offense Act, right?
Yes.
What's happening with that? Mm-hmm. Have you guys brought it up? Private sector, all these people, the institutions. What are some of the things you guys are putting in place? You know, I know we're asking everybody to come on board, but have you done anything towards some of these things?
Well, we as an organization, what we do is, we share our reports with partners, and we'll definitely be looking at these things. And as a member of the Civil Society Regional Reference Group of Spotlight, I am also going to bring that to the attention of 15 member countries, which I'm a member, representing Sierra Leone. And let's see how we could engage other partners, governments, at that level to ensure that we domesticate some of these laws that we have and strengthen them and ensure that we create, a very healthy environment. Because the thing that we forget is when you normalize these things, we are breeding a generation where women, we are leaving so many scars on their mental wellness. These women, these young women, when they sit at their quiet moment and just imagine all they've gone through, then we start judging them. Then we start seeing different people. They can be a monster within just a day because of all what they've gone through. And it is our responsibility as a nation to create that environment for safe, that safe environment for every girl, for every child, for every woman in the society, and for every male child too. Let's don't forget, we are seeing there is something coming up which is really silent about boys being abused.
So boys are being abused.
Boys are being abused.
Oh, wow.
And these are powerful gangs. Me, I'm calling them gangs because, they are abusing these boys. And the silence over them, nobody is talking.
And that's the
And
part.
they ensure that, the boys are in a position where they are so afraid to speak up. Same way so with women. Same way so with young girls.
Is poverty also a part of it as well? Because what I hear, because I'm dealing with the youths, women, boys, girls or whatnot. They have this thing where they'll do whatever it is to make it.
Ellen, let me just take you down to abuse at community level.
Okay.
The perpetrators are very powerful. They may either be the breadwinner, the uncle, or, someone who is really in charge.
Right.
So what happens? You either keep quiet because that person determines your future. Same way so in workplace.
Yep.
Your boss is well connected. Your boss can fire you if you talk. If it is your principal, if it is your teacher, he determines your grade. He determines if it's your lecturer. So these people are really powerful people.
So I think that's where you guys really come in. Like you said, it's everybody's effort is for people to really understand this laws. This, for example, with this sexual act, the law, the act, and is it all over the place? I mean, all those workplaces, do they actually practice these things? Is it part of their policy?
Ellen, sadly, I can tell you there are certain institutions, I will not call names, but I can authentically tell you they have zero safeguarding policies.
Wow.
Zero, which is really, really scary. Zero safeguarding policies, zero reporting mechanism. So you are just left there like, I dare not say a word.
Right, okay.
You either leave the job or you succumb or you speak up and you get bullied.
That's the things. You speak up and get bullied and get judged, and it becomes a whole lot of drama. So we all really need to just come together and have people understand the rights, especially the women, girls coming up, that it's not okay. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That is not okay.
It's not okay.
You know, but like
Funnily,
everything they're
some
going
of
through,
these
you just feel like,
some of these people, they've lived abroad. They know it is not okay. They know you are, even in their wildest dream, they dare not. They dare not. They've lived abroad. They know. You dare not.
yeah. But then you have to understand, you know, with men, some of them are just men. Some of these women, that's why I'm really particular about the women part of it, to make sure they're not really making this up. They're not putting themselves in the position where, you know, some of them are confrontational. They may want the guys as well. Like you said, they want to be on top. They want to shine, you know, and then when things doesn't go their way, boom, sexually harass me. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's not happening. You guys have to be mindful to kind of
Get a balance.
That is why,
really, you know, for
know,
me, Ellen, that is why it all bends down on the policy.
Policies, yes.
It all bends down on the policy.
True.
And when they say policy, it's not a policy that, you know, you have and it's on the shelf. Okay. You make sure everyone signs up to it, and you create a mechanism where people can report.
So the men can be safe as well.
Exactly.
And the, the women can be safe.
It goes for everybody, both ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see how Florence here. Of course, I'm almost at the end of the show. I don't want you to move. I'll be right back after this.
Who knows what might happen tomorrow, next week, or even next year? But we do know that with Stacco Insurance, whatever the future brings, we'll be there when you need us most, with outstanding customer service and prompt payment of your claim. Fire, motor, general accident, marine, life and medical. For now and for tomorrow. Stacco Insurance, a passion for high standards.
I am almost at the end of the show, because welcome back to Keister, the Real Talk Show. I have Florence Sesay with me today. It's all about the women's rights, and, you know, the choices we make in life. Of course, that's what the show is about. However, help me welcome Florence again.
Thank you, Ellen.
It's been really fun, and, you know, I've learned a lot as well, because, you know, even though when it comes to women and their rights, it cuts across the world. However, it's just sad to know that our policies are not really been implemented when it comes to, like, the sexual act. And like I said, most of this, you know, perpetrators are people that are, like, from overseas. They know these things. But when they come here, it becomes different. However, I think even with the girls coming up, most of these people don't even understand. You know, they think everything is okay. So I want you to help me, you know, explain to the public, because somebody's probably watching. We're just talking about sexual harassment. To them, it's normal. It's okay. You know, I mean, please tell me really what sexual harassment is.
Well, sexual harassment, first of all, it is not okay.
Okay.
Sexual harassment is when somebody wants, you know, is in a position where can influence your decision, you know, or wants to use his position or her position and get your body to what they want, yeah? And there's nothing okay in terms of, oh, they had a relationship in a workplace. You either step down or you ensure that someone is out. Okay. But you cannot have a supervisor dating, you know, his subordinate or her subordinate and saying, oh, they have a relationship. Okay. That is not a relationship. You have a lot of influence, and that person, one, is in a position to say yes, sir, or yes, ma. And just imagine, in this country, to find a job is so difficult.
Yep.
The first thing that comes to mind is, oh my God, I might lose my job. Or, oh my God, he might send me somewhere else. or oh my God, if I say no, you know. And secondly, we have to understand that sexual harassment, it happens even with your husband.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're not ready to give your body mentally okay, you have the right to say no.
To your husband.
Yes.
Okay.
It can happen to anybody. Right. And there is nothing like, oh, you've waited for 3 years, for 6 months, and now it's the time you want to speak up. You know the courage that it takes someone to talk.
Right.
Sometimes there are certain things that have happened to you during your childhood, and it takes you maybe decades to really speak up.
To have that courage.
Maybe you have to meet your mom and tell her, Mommy, this and this that happened to me when I was in primary school or when I was in secondary school. Because now you're well informed, now you are in a position, and now is the time that you're ready to talk. So there is no time, you know, pegged that, oh, if you've been abused, now you for talk.
You know, but you know, I think our parents, some of them, all of us, you know, they have issues here and there. Because sometimes the kids want to speak. They don't give them the opportunity.
There's no space.
It's more like you said, if the uncle is very powerful, you know, it's almost impossible. Because I've read books of Sierra Leoneans writing stories where they tried to tell their parents, but it was more like they got beat up.
Yeah.
You know, everything grounded. It was just everything. It's more like you rely upon them instead of really listening to the child. And they grow up with that, making it okay. So even when they get to the workplaces and some of these places, you just feel like it's normal. Like you mentioned about the husband part. You know, you have men that would say, "Let me marry that anytime." You know, they have that. You know, they don't allow the women to be able to say no. You know,
man there.
Yes,
okay, let me come. The men.
They rape
their
wives.
The men, when they are not mentally okay, if the woman touches, they'll say, "Oh, you don't even know what's in there."
But when it's
the other way around, they'll either tell you, "Oh, maybe you've slept with another man," or maybe blah blah blah. Abuse comes in, you know, fight, or forcefully it happens. This is harassment. This is an abuse.
Right. Yeah, and that's where the domestic violence
comes in.
Violence and so many other things.
So we have to look at that. And you know, Ellen, you touched on a very important point, creating that space. That is why I'm really happy that the curriculum on sexuality education has been reviewed, and you know, they'll be starting, you know,
which is great,
back at schools. That is really important. We have to create space for girls, for our young people to talk about sexuality education.
Yes.
Because the moment they are in a position to talk about their bodies with their parents, then it is easy to open that conversation, dialogue, where they can tell you all about themselves. But if you allow them to learn, they may fall on the wrong information. They may fall on some pedophiles, and we do have them in our society.
They just want the young girls.
They
don't even care about the age. They'll tell you,
we have psychopaths in our society, but we are not even in a position to even identify them. Unfortunately.
So these are all some of the things we
Sierra Leone is the worst place to even have mental breakdown or mental wellness issues. It's just something that you don't even pray, because the level of support that you should have is so limited. So we don't even know how to identify these issues.
So these are some of the things.
So for me, it's about continuous engagement, providing that safe space, and for Media Matters for Women, this is one of our babies. You know, engagement, especially at last mile communities. For the 16 days of activism, one of our key engagements it's going to be intergenerational dialogue, where we have girls, we have the chiefs, we have, the key stakeholders to talk about sexuality education.
Great.
Because it's a taboo.
It is, and that, and we really need to just break that.
Exactly.
When I was growing up, of course, we had that. And then they took it off. They think that will help. No, it's not helping, because you're making them more curious than it is. But if they're able to know, like you said, if it's reviewed and goes back in the curriculums, I think it will help a lot.
Ellen, I will not, round this conversation without telling you how dangerous, not talking about sexuality education with our kids is, because it is a cycle. Because even the mom, the women, their mothers, it comes back at them. When they reach menopause, they have little or no knowledge. They'll be at the market feeling some kind of a way, don't even know how to manage themselves. And what will happen? She'll not even know her vitals. Nothing. She doesn't even know if she has blood pressure, diabetes, anything. She just confide in one of their friends. And say, oh, somebody that woman making cancer last speaking. Wait, give me to that that cut again. Yeah. Because she doesn't even know that her body is changing.
It's changing. Especially with the
so
hot
it's
flashes.
a cycle. It's a cycle.
It's a cycle.
So it goes round and round and round. So we are only left to learn for ourselves.
All right. Lord help us. We have to go now. It's been it's been amazing. I'm happy you're here to help to talk to women and girls support. There's no way you can leave without really giving them advice to somebody who's watching. And also, if they want to reach you, where can they reach you? Because I know a lot of people want to talk. I want you to be able to give your address as well, where they can reach you to talk. But more so, what would you advise a young girl coming up, and then women who wants to speak but cannot speak? What would you say to them?
To round it up, I want to say, young girls, please learn to be yourself. Please learn to speak up. Don't feel comfortable with messages which are, flirting messages which are inappropriate. Don't be comfortable with anybody touching you, which is, touching you inappropriately. Even if it is your brother, your mother, learn to speak up. Because when you speak up, that is one defense. That, this speaking to get it emotes too sharp. They don't afraid you. That's one thing that I know you, where we come up convent, Ellen, you know they mess with them.
No.
Because waiting now you right.
Right.
So please not feel comfortable with inappropriate touch, text, or any message. And like they say in a whatever, let's learn to speak. And parents, please be attentive, because we have the key word. You have to listen to your children. Listen to them. They might be boring, especially where they go work. Sometimes, we are so tired that we leave everything with the nannies, everything with the other kids, and, they get tired. And maybe that child, he or she is in a position that the only person that he or she can talk to is the mother. You need to pay attention. You need to follow up. You need to listen. The rate at which abuse is on the rise is really alarming.
Yeah, and when you talk about, briefly, when you talk about leaving the kids with the nannies, I have a lot of guy friends. Most of the stories, they'll tell you the first person they ever slept with was a nanny.
Exactly. Yes.
So, they really need to be attentive. I just had to just comment on that, because they'll tell you, nanny first, nanny first,
Yes. So you see, we as parents, it's a collaborative work.
Right.
And we have to take responsibility of our children. And for the schools, please, I know that, we have to look at trending issue and ensure that we have strong policy and strong reporting lines. Because at the end of the day, we do not only want to see our students coming out with very good grades, we want to see, producing students with a very, strong inner person, mentally, integrity, you name it.
Not going to school to get the degree, but actually be educated.
And we have to create that space where women and girls can talk.
Okay. So where are you located?
Our office is at 1 Bismarck Johnson Street, Brookfields, YWC Old Hall, where you can check us out at www.mediamattersforwomen.org, and we have thousands of podcasts there. We have our Facebook, Twitter, and a website. Reach out to us, and we are always willing to listen to women and girls.
Yeah, and women and girls, it's not just about one particular issue. It's about everything else. It has to do with, of course, sexual harassment, rape, domestic violence, just anything that is bothering you. And or if you don't know your rights, just reach out to them. Media Matters for Women Sierra Leone. Or, you can send a message to me and I can just have you reach to her. We hope for the best. We hope the government really enforces this laws, make sure, everybody knows these things, like you said, engage, the communities, engage the workplaces, have a lot more workshops, because people are going to these jobs, so the schools, they really didn't understand. So we just hope everybody comes together collectively and make sure our girls and women are safe. Of course, nobody leaves my set. I have a really nice gift for you.
Oh.
Yes. It's for me too.
Thank you, Ellen.
Right.
I appreciate it.
I don't want to go, but I have to go. I'm going to be following some of the stories, like she mentioned earlier. There are a lot of women who have a lot to talk about, and we are going to be addressing it one at a time. Of course, she's only a person, I'm only a person, but together we can win. I have to go now. I've been your host today, Ellen Keister. Till next week. Bye.